Wish to ask further supplementary? Oh, my apologies. Question number 4, the Leader of the Opposition, David
Thank you,
Shearer.
Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister, does he stand by all his statements in relation to Kim Dotcom and the inquiry into the actions of the government's Communication Security Bureau?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, I stand by my full statements in the context in which they were given.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does he stand by a statement that he first heard of Kim Dotcom on 19 January 2012, the day before the police raids on Dotcom's residence?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Is he expecting us to believe that that was the first time he had heard of Kim Dotcom, given there was an extradition order for Kim Dotcom from the highest authorities in the US? His ministers, Williamson, Power and Coleman, had dealt with him. The New Zealand Police, the Solicitor General, Crown Law and the US had given substantial assistance up to that raid. The media had been reporting on him and his own agency, GCSB, had been investigating him.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that's the truth.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Does he stand by his statement when he said he didn't know about the ministerial certificate Bill English signed on the 16th of August as acting Prime Minister? And is he therefore telling the House that Mr English didn't ring him and tell him, didn't brief him on it when he returned, sat through an entire cabinet and didn't mention it to him, and only told him about it after the press conference yesterday?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in relation to all the earlier points, yes, except the latter point's incorrect. My agency informed me about the last point. And the reason for that, of course, is that the ministerial certificate was simply a certificate around a suppression order that was a suppression order that was a suppression order that was granted by an application of the court, and the reason why that would not be an extraordinary item is it's quite normal for the activities of GCSB and SIS not to be in the public domain for good public interest reasons.
The Leader of the Opposition.
In light of that and in light of the seriousness which the situation is now in, does he have confidence in his acting Prime Minister Bill English at the time?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, and Mr. Speaker, it's been a long-standing practice for GCSB and SIS activities not to be in the public domain for good public interest. That was the policy that Helen Clark followed. That was exactly the policy that Helen Clark followed, and the ministerial certificate simply does that, doesn't do anything else.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Thanks, Speaker. Does the ministerial certificate relate to information that, if released publicly, would prejudice the relationship between the New Zealand and the US governments?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no. The ministerial certificate was in relation to an application by Paul Davison QC to have the involvement of GCSB released into the public domain. It was deemed that that's not in the public interest.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is he suggesting, as he did yesterday, that GCSB made a mistake because they didn't know the status of Kim Dotcom's residency, when in fact, just to jog the Prime Minister's memory, he put on a fireworks display like this that was the biggest in New Zealand's history?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, all I can say to the member is I would caution him, as I would caution every other New Zealander, to wait until they see Paul Naser's report, which might make it quite clear how such a situation like this could have taken place.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does he stand by his statement that as a minister he did not take any responsibility for the actions of GCSB because, quote, I wasn't aware of the fact that the operation was taking place and it didn't require ministerial sign-off?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm responsible for the direction and priorities of my agencies. I don't get involved in operational matters, and I'd note that the Cabinet Manual says that ministers should not be involved in their department's day-to-day operations.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Who is ultimately responsible for the actions of GCSB?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am responsible, and that is why when on Monday the 17th of September my agency came to me and said that they believed that they may have acted unlawfully, I immediately set about and started an inquiry, rightfully so.
Question number 5, Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, question to the Minister of Education.